Hey all, it's the Diplomat, and we are on part 30 of the Chris Watts Discovery Read-Through on Discovery page 639. And in this we are going to review the second Cervi search of the 3 sites that Chris went to. We have the Mistress's third interview, and then some conversations with the doctor's office where Shanann was supposed to go in the morning of August 13th, as well as some interesting conversation with the folks that work at Primrose. So on 639 we have a CBI report. It is the second search of Cervi 319, a search of 1029 and 1129 on Cervi Ranch for blankets and toys, and this occurred on August 21st. Led by Agent Greg Zentner. So we have a few subjects listed here. We have Luke and Tony from Anadarko. We have Matt from the Colorado State Land Board. And we also have the owner of Cervi, whose name is Binion. Action taken. On Friday, August 17th, 2018, I re-interviewed Anadarko employee Troy. During this interview, Troy said he thought Chris Watts may have placed evidence related to this case on Cervi Ranch oil well sites on Monday, August 13th. On Tuesday, August 21st, at approximately 12:53 p.m., I contacted Anadarko Regional Security Manager Tony and requested permission to go to the oil well sites on Cervi Ranch to look for items of evidence related to this case. Tony consulted with legal representation from Anadarko and then granted us permission to go onto the sites. Tony said he would be able to provide an escort to the sites. GPS information provided earlier in the investigation by Anadarko showed Watts drove to 3 different oil well sites on Cervi Ranch on Monday, August 13th. These sites were identified by Anadarko employees as Cervi 319, Cervi 1029, and Cervi 1129. At 1:25 p.m., I contacted Binion, who is the owner of the Cervi Ranch, via telephone and requested permission to go onto his land where the oil well sites are located to search for evidence related to this case. Binion verbally granted permission for law enforcement and Anadarko employees to enter his property to look for evidence. At about 2:30 p.m., Tony advised me that one of the oil well sites, Cervi 1029, I requested to visit on the Cervi Ranch was actually on property owned by the state of Colorado. I contacted Matt, who is the manager of the North Central District of the State Land Board, and requested permission to go onto the land which contained Cervi Site 1029. Matt verbally granted permission for CBI agents to look on this parcel of land for any evidence related to this case. At approximately 3:30 p.m., CBI agent Karskelen and I entered onto the Cervi Ranch escorted by Anadarko employee Luke. We first drove to Cervi 1029 and completed a search of the surrounding area for any evidence. We did not locate any items of evidentiary value. Using GPS information provided by Anadarko and the statement from Troy, we were able to locate an area of interest on the south side of the holding tanks on Cervi 1029. Troy told agents that Watts had parked his work vehicle on the south side of the holding tanks so Watts could defecate. Troy thought Watts may have buried evidence there. We were able to locate an area of ground which appeared to be recently disturbed, as well as tire tracks on the south side of the holding tanks. We used a shovel to carefully scrape off the top layers of dirt. We discovered what appeared to be paper towels along with what appeared to be excrement. Nothing else was located in this area. See attached videos and photos. We then proceeded to Cervi 1129 and searched this location on foot. We did not locate any items of evidentiary value. We left Cervi 1129 and drove slowly on the road to Cervi 319, checking the side of the road for any evidence. We did not locate any items of evidence on the side of the road. We then entered Cervi 319 and searched the site on foot. We did not locate any items of evidentiary value. We left the Cervi Ranch at about 6 p.m. Nothing further. Zentner. So there's a number of attachments here, including GPS information from Anadarko, a map of the Cervi ranch, a few video clips of the south side of the holding tanks on Cervi 1029, as well as a couple of images of the hole on the south side of the holding tanks on Cervi 1029. Okay, we have now on page 644, 643 appears to be missing. This just describes text messages between Christina and Chris. Unfortunately, we don't have the next page, it's blank, but I just have the synopsis here, which says, on August 21st, CBI agent Kellan Hassenstab received an email from Christina containing 5 image files of a text message string between her and Chris Watts, starting on Monday, August 13th at 10:10 a.m. The image files are attached to this supplemental report. So perhaps we'll see them later. Otherwise, we will not have them, as the next page is not here. So then on page 646, we go into a third interview with Chris's mistress, occurring on August 21st. This is by Kevin Kobach. Action taken. On August 21st, 2018, Agent Kevin Kobach, spoke with the mistress by telephone. She updated me on memories regarding her relationship and conversations with Christopher Watts. The following is a summary of the phone call with her. The phone call was recorded and is attached to this report for review of the exact contact of the interview. The interview was sent for transcription on August 22nd. She stated the following during the interview. She has been thinking about Chris's use of Thrive. Chris always wore at least 2 patches, usually on his left and right bicep-tricep area. Chris would also apply the patch on his lower back. Chris also used the supplements, shakes and pills on a daily basis and followed the Thrive routine. Chris lost 13 pounds between July 4th and August 11th. On July 4th, the mistress went to Chris's home in Frederick, Colorado to help Chris set up his diet and weight loss exercise goals. She said this was the first time she was at Chris's home. After spending time at Chris's home on July 4th, she went to the Colorado Rockies baseball game without Chris. The second and final time she went to Chris's home was on July 14th. The mistress said Chris was always full of energy and he did not need to sleep. He regularly went to sleep at 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. and woke between 4:30 and 5 a.m. She recalled that Chris would sometimes fall asleep during their conversations but catch himself and wake back up. She recalled the following dates and locations which she and Chris visited during their relationship. Saturday, August 11th, 2018. Chris drove to her home in his Lexus. They went to the Lazy Dog Bar at 120th and Federal in Westminster, Colorado, and chose to leave this location and go to another Lazy Dog Bar at 144th and I-25 in Erie. They drove her Toyota 4Runner to both locations. After having a meal at the second Lazy Dog, they returned to her home. Chris left her home in his Lexus. The mistress recalled that Chris always paid for their meals when they were out on dates. Chris had always paid for everything using Anadarko gift cards. She was not certain how Chris got the gift cards, but believes they were given to him by Anadarko as a bonus or for being safe on the job. She believed Chris had been using the gift cards to hide their relationship from Shanann. The mistress noticed on August 11th at the Lazy Dog in Erie, Chris paid for their meal with a baby blue credit card. During this time, Chris also made it clear to his mistress he was filing for divorce from Shanann. She thought it was unusual for Chris to pay with a credit card, as he had always used the gift cards. She believed Chris had nothing to hide anymore from Shanann, so he was not concerned with paying with a credit card that Shanann may be able to see transactions on. Here it says 2 dates, Friday, July 6th and Saturday, July 7th. Chris and his mistress went to a movie theater near 144th and I-25. They attempted to see Jurassic Park at approximately 7 p.m., but the show was sold out. They walked to a bench near Victoria's Secret and sat and talked for approximately 2 hours, then attended the 9 p.m. show. Saturday, July 14th. This is the second time the mistress had been to Chris's home. She picked him up at his home, and they drove to Boulder, Colorado in her Toyota 4Runner. There, they went to the Shelby Mustang Museum. They arrived at approximately 11 a.m. After going to the museum, the mistress took Chris back to his home. July 21st, 2018. Chris and his mistress went to Bandemeyer Speedway to watch the drag races. They arrived in the early afternoon. Prior to attending the event, they went to a rooftop bar in Morrison, Colorado, where they ate lunch. The mistress could not recall the name of the bar, but after an open source search, it is likely the location is the Rooftop Tavern at 215 Bear Creek Avenue, Morrison, Colorado. July 28th and July 29th, 2018. The mistress and Chris went to the Great Sand Dunes National Monument in Alamosa, Colorado. They tent camped at Zapata Falls in an established campground on July 28th. She said they stopped at a local gas station near the Great Sand Dunes National Park and purchased ice and firewood. The mistress said Chris paid for the items, but she was uncertain if he used a gift card. Chris also rented sandboards for the Great Sand Dunes. The only gas station near the Great Sand Dunes is the Oasis in Mosca, Colorado. When returning home from the Great Sand Dunes, the mistress's friend Charlotte asked her to go to the Renaissance Festival. The mistress made an excuse why she could not go, as she was with Chris and did not want Charlotte to know. The mistress said she and Chris stopped in Colorado Springs at BJ's. They sat to the right of the doors, and Chris paid for their meals with a gift card. BJ's restaurant is located at 5150 North Nevada Avenue, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Both then returned home. The mistress said Chris left Colorado for North Carolina on July 31st. She could not recall what day Chris returned home, but believed he was gone for approximately 1 week. She said the next date she had with Chris was on August 11th, when they visited the Lazy Dog Bar. The mistress recalled further information on statements made by Chris. She said at the time he made the statements, they did not cause her concern, but when reflecting back on the conversations, they caused her concern. The mistress referenced a phone call with Chris on Monday, August 13th, 2018. She said this was in the evening, and Chris was making statements about his children's sheets being smelly and about Shanann's wedding ring. During this conversation, Chris told his mistress that Shanann was okay with their separation. The mistress found this concerning, as she had discussed with Chris trying to repair his relationship with Shanann prior to him leaving for North Carolina. Chris told his mistress he had told Shanann he wanted to fix the relationship while in North Carolina, and Shanann said she did not want to and wanted a divorce. The mistress believed Chris was lying about Shanann, saying she was okay with the divorce separation. The mistress said during the same phone conversation she and Chris discussed why Celeste's EpiPen would have been left behind by Shanann, knowing that Celeste has an extreme nut allergy. The mistress said she questioned Chris about this, as it seemed odd. Chris responded, saying they had a stash of EpiPens, and maybe Shanann took one of those. The mistress said she knew this was a lie, as the EpiPens are very expensive. The mistress also questioned Chris during this phone call as to why he had not come into the Anadarko office location on Monday, August 13th. She said although Chris usually comes to the office location in the mornings, there had been times when he reported directly to the field. She said it was ironic his wife was missing and he did not come to the office that day, so she questioned him. The mistress recalled Chris telling her on Sunday, August 12th, that he was not going to come to the office and was going to a pump site. She recalled during this phone conversation on August 12th that a television was playing in the background, and she thought it was strange Chris was watching television very late at night. The mistress believed Chris was waiting up for Shanann to arrive home from Arizona that evening. That is why the television was on. Chris told her during this call that he had to go to the field to check on a release. The mistress explained a release was a small oil leak at a well or pump site. She was suspicious as to why Chris would be checking on a release, as he was not part of the environmental team. She explained usually if a release is reported, a team of environmental specialists respond to deal with the release. Chris occasionally deals with a release and may be responsible for closing valves and or shutting off tanks to stop the release. Chris told the mistress he was going to check out equipment and do a lockout tagout on the site if there was a release. She said Chris is tasked with doing lockout tagouts and there would be a record or some type of paperwork for this type of activity. She questioned Chris about going to the job site on Monday, August 13th in the morning and told him to prove he had been to the site. Chris responded with text messages between him and other Anadarko employees to prove he was at the site. Chris also sent her a picture of a release. She said Chris told her that Luke, Chris's supervisor, had requested Chris or Troy to respond to the release. Chris told Troy he would take care of the release according to the mistress. The mistress said she ended the phone conversation with Chris and he later FaceTimed her that evening, August 12th. She said on the video call Chris was wearing a black wife-beater t-shirt and he was laying on a mattress with no sheets on it. She did not know what bed Chris was on, but said it did not look like his makeshift basement bedroom. She said the mattress Chris was laying on could have been blue in color. I asked the mistress about her social media use, and she said she has not used social media since approximately 2018. She said she last used LinkedIn, however, rarely. The mistress said she discussed with Chris shutting down his Facebook profile. Chris mentioned to her on Saturday, August 11th, during their dinner that he had shut down his Facebook account. Chris said he did not use the account. She asked if he had shut down the account all the way by sending a request to Facebook, and Chris did not know about this requirement. She believed his account was only deactivated. The mistress and I discussed her willingness to provide me with her Apple iPhone 6 so further attempts could be made to recover her deleted text messages. She said she would provide the phone and would consent to a search of the phone. The mistress further stated she had recovered from Verizon her call logs from July to August 13th. She is going to provide those documents to me at our next meeting. Nothing further. Investigation continues. And there's an attachment of her call logs or something there. It's a little cut off. Next page is just a non-PDF file list, which has 6 or 7 attachments listed there. They're all just called attachments.zip. Okay, next is a CBI report, pickup of phone download from Thornton PD, August 21st, Kevin Kobach. And this was just him picking up the downloaded information from the consent search of the mistress's cellular telephone. So there's X-ray phone extraction data, X-ray PDF data disk. So that's just from her phone. Action taken on August 22nd, 2018. I, Agent Kevin Kobach, met the Thornton Police Detective Doug Parker at the Thornton Police Department to pick up downloaded information from the mistress's cellular telephone, iPhone 6. Detective Doug Parker provided the attached documents that shows the contents of the phone, both active and deleted material. Detective Parker also attempted to search the download.xry files for any material dated from August 11th to August 16th. That material was downloaded to a PDF document and was later booked into evidence at CBI Lakewood along with the complete .xry file download that was completed by Detective Parker. No other analysis was completed on the phone data. Nothing further. Attachments evidence sheet and .xry download info page. Okay, this is CBI report, follow-up on Shanann's missed doctor appointment. So this is by Agent Matthew Saylor. So it lists witness number 1, an Emma, witness number 2, a Susie. Action taken. On August 15th, CBI Agent Matthew Saylor responded to Centura Health Physician Group Avista Family Medicine, located in Erie, Colorado, to follow up on information we had received that Shanann Watts missed an appointment there on August 13th. Upon arrival at approximately 11:45 a.m., I contacted Susie at the front desk. Susie confirmed that Watts had an appointment scheduled for August 13th at 9:15 a.m., and that Watts did not arrive for that appointment. Susie advised me that the appointment was for standard gender and genetic testing with Dr. Stephanie of the women's health side of the clinic. Susie explained that half of the clinic is dedicated to general practice and the other half was dedicated to obstetrics and gynecology. Susie told me that the appointment had been previously scheduled for August 8th and August 9th. Susie said that the previous appointments had been canceled and rescheduled by Watts, as opposed to the appointment on August 13th, for which she did not show or call. Dr. Stephanie was not currently in the office. Susie advised me that Shanann was also a patient of Dr. Scott on the general practice side of the clinic, but had not been seen by him since October of 2017. Dr. Scott was not currently in the office. Susie advised that she could not provide any additional information as it would be a violation of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. Susie provided me with the name of the manager of the general practice side of the clinic, Emma, and of the women's health side, Anne. Susie suggested I contact them for any additional information. I left voice messages for both of them with my contact information requesting a phone call back. On August 16th at approximately 1300 hours, I received a call from Emma. Emma advised that she was not able to provide any additional information as it would be a violation of HIPAA. As of the time of this report, I have not received communication from Anne. End of report. Okay, the next is a CBI report. Description: Colorado State Patrol Hazmat Team Report. Reporting Officer Kirby Quinn Lewis. And this is on August 22nd, I guess the report was written. Synopsis: Colorado State Patrol Hazmat Sergeant Luke Armstrong provided a report of the Hazmat team's activity at well site Cervi 319 during the recovery of Bella and Celeste Watts' bodies from the oil tanks on August 17th. The report is attached. No further action taken for this report, and there is not an associated narrative. So the following page is actually not there. 660, that was 659, even though it actually says there is no associated narrative. So I'm not sure exactly what that's representing. The next page is CBI report, follow-up at Primrose School, but also by Matthew Saylor. So witness number 1 is Chris, witness number 2 Shanann, witness number 3 Alba, and witness number 4 Kerry. So these are all folks, I believe, at the Primrose School. So action taken on August 15th, I, Matthew Saylor, responded to Primrose School of Erie at Vista Ridge, located in Erie, Colorado, to conduct follow-up. Primrose is the school of Bella Watts and Celeste Watts, who did not show up for the first day of school on August 13th. It was reported that their father, Chris Watts, called the school to advise they would not be attending. Upon arrival at approximately 12:20, I met with the owner, Chris, and spoke with him in his office. Chris said that both Bella and Celeste had attended the last school year and that their mother, Shanann, had pulled them out for the summer because she was taking them to North Carolina for an extended trip. Chris said that both girls were scheduled to start at the school again when the new year started on August 13th. Chris, the owner, said that between 8 o'clock and 8:15, Shanann received a phone call from the girls' father, Chris Watts, stating that they would not be attending the school. Chris, the owner, said that Chris Watts then asked Shanann if the girls were at the school. Chris, the owner, said that Shanann was freaked out by the phone call and later reported it to police. Chris, the owner, then brought in Kerry, the director of the school. Kerry said Shanann's mother called between 8 and 8:30 to ask if the girls were in school. Kerry said that Alba, the assistant director, then spoke with Shanann's mother midday. Kerry asked Alba what time it was they spoke, and Alba called around 11:30 hours, again asking if the girls were dropped off. So I think there's a little funkiness with that sentence, but I think the bottom line is that Shanann's mom called again around 11:30. Kerry said that she then spoke with Shanann's mother around 3 o'clock p.m., again asking if the girls had been dropped off at the school. Kerry advised her that they hadn't been, and the girls' grandmother told Kerry that they were missing. I then spoke with Shanann by phone, speakerphone in the office. Shanann said that Chris Watts called at about 8:15 on August 13th and said that after he introduced himself, she told him that they were expecting to see the girls starting at the school, and he replied that he was calling to let them know that the girls weren't going to start. He said he wasn't really sure what was going on yet, but that they were going to be moving and putting up the house up for sale, and they were not sure if they were going to stay in the area. Shanann responded with, "That's pretty crazy," in quotes. Shanann said that Chris then asked, in quotes, "The girls aren't there, are they?" End quote. Shanann said she told Chris no, she hadn't seen them, but to let her check and see if they were clocked in, and they were not clocked in. Chris said okay, and to put them down as not coming in, and Shanann asked if he wanted to be placed on a waiting list in case something changes. Chris replied that they might as well, but they weren't sure what was going on. Shanann told him to keep them updated and that the teachers would be sad to not see the girls today. Chris thanked her and then hung up. Shanann said that Shanann's mother, she couldn't remember her name, called about an hour after Chris called and spoke with Alba. Shanann said that Shanann's mother called back around 11 to 11:30 and spoke with her. Shanann said that Shanann's mother said that she was Shanann's mom and that everything was fine and not to tell anyone that she had called. She said, "Don't tell anyone that I called and excuse me for caring. Don't worry about anything." Shanann said that she told Shanann's mom that she was glad everything was okay and that she was glad that they were able to talk to Shanann, and Shanann's mother was hurried and hung up. Shanann said Shanann's mother called back again and spoke with Kerry around 1500 hours. I asked Shanann about Shanann's mother stating, "Excuse me for caring," in quotes, and Shanann said that she assumed that she had spoken with Chris, who became upset that she had called the school. I asked Shanann if they told Chris that Shanann's mother had called, and she said no. The only time anyone at the school talked to Chris that day was when he called in the morning. I asked Shanann about Chris's demeanor when he called, and she said he seemed normal, but she was surprised that the girls weren't coming back. Shanann said she suspected that they weren't really moving, and that was just an excuse. Shanann said it was strange because they had just spoken with Shanann recently, and everyone was excited about the girls coming back to school. Shanann said it was strange to suddenly get a call from Chris stating the girls weren't coming back. Shanann said she didn't notice anything strange in Chris's demeanor, but thought that it was strange that he asked if the girls were there. I asked Shanann if Chris was the one who typically called the school and dealt with school issues, and she said no. Shanann did the majority of the pickups and drop-offs. Shanann said that Chris did come to the school, but Shanann was the primary communicator. I asked Shanann who would normally call the school if the girls were sick or something similar, and she replied that Shanann normally would. Kerry then told me about her conversation with Shanann's mom at about 3 p.m. and said that she asked if Shanann had ever dropped the girls off, and Kerry told her no. Shanann's mother said that they were missing. Chris, the owner, said it was a surprise to find that the girls weren't going to be starting. He said that they had been attending the school since March of 2017. He said that the school has never had any problems with the girls or Shanann or Chris. He said that with the girls being gone for the summer, they haven't seen them recently to notice any recent changes. Chris, the owner, said that Shanann thought the phone call from Chris was very strange and wanted to call the police right away. Chris, the owner, said he told her to wait until they knew something, and as soon as they had heard that Shanann and the girls were reported missing, they called police. I left my business card with Chris, the owner, and asked them to contact me if they had any additional information. End of report. So that's where we're going to end part 30, finishing up page 664. And I'd just like to call out some folks that, were very much affected by this, who don't usually get spoken about. And that's certainly the folks at the doctor's office that had certainly built a relationship with Shanann and were getting to see her through her pregnancy. And also all those at the Primrose School. Whether it was the owner, some of these associate directors and teachers and the students that were all affected by this, finding out what ended up happening with Bella and Celeste and the whole family. It's just absolutely devastating, and those folks were all really affected as well, and this just affected so many different people, so much collateral damage that Chris caused, and I'd just like to acknowledge them and the pain that they must have gone through, and I'm sure continue to go through as they go on with the school year without those children. So it's deeply sad and devastating. In loving memory of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico, God continue to bless the Srch family, especially more so than ever with this recent interview by Chris. I just ask that you bless them and look over them and strengthen them in every way possible. This is The Diplomat. Have a great day.